This is my favorite way of jacking up a motorcycle. Suspend it from the rafters of your ceiling. And that's because you can come over and push it anyway. As long as it's not too heavy to take down your roof, the bike's not going anywhere. Alright, so I've already got my wheel off, and that's all taken apart. There's a couple of things that I want to do while the fork is still on the bike in order to start replacing these fork seals. First thing is I'm going to pop this cap right here and then start draining the oil. Alright, cap just pops right off. And we have that little cap there. That comes off. And then I just release the pressure. This is just like in your tire. Just release the pressure. There, shouldn't take too much more than that. Down here I have a little drain bolt. So we're going to let that drain out a bit. And also while the forks are on the bike, I'm going to crack loose this nut that's underneath there. And this top one too, ooh, which looks a little bit deformed. But yeah, I'm going to crack those loose, not going to remove them just yet, just loosen them. Now I'm loosening off all 4 of the retainer bolts. This thing. Just slides on out of here. Now you can see this bottom bolt again. Comes out nice and easy because I cracked it. And then these 2 tubes just sort of gently slide apart. A lot of times there's residual oil in here, so you give it another dump. Fork seals always make a god-awful mess. Every time I do this, I make a huge mess. I don't know why I never learn. Alright, so I wrap it up all nice and secure it in my vise. This here's the dust boot. You can just sort of pry it off. Take a look at it. Usually it's a good idea to replace it. Better safe than sorry. Dust boot. In here, amongst all this grime and shit, which you really should clean out and make sure it doesn't fall down into the fork tube. But in here you're going to have your retainer clip. Clip, and then the seal sits right in here. So when you're popping out the seal, you basically just got to muscle it on out of there. But if your bike is as old as mine, and maybe even has original seals for all I know, it's really going to be seated in there really well. So what I like to do is I just clean up around here as best I can. I blow it out with some compressed air, really dig all the shit away, be sure not to scratch anything. and then I just sort of take a screwdriver here and just real gently, you know, go pop, 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 and pop it up. So the old one gets pulled out, thrown in the trash. Now I'm going to clean up this surface in here, just wipe it down with a rag, get all kinds of shit out of there, so it makes a nice good seat for the new one. So we got our new one. Be sure to take a look when you pull the old one out, which way up, which way is up. So I know it's going to go in like this. I'm going to take some fork oil, just get a little bit on my finger. Move it up a bit. Set it down in there. Just sort of very gently press it down. It's a good idea to use a big socket or something to press it down. I don't happen to have one that's that big, so to improvise, use my hammer. So you just be gentle. Work it until it completely seats down. Don't forget to put your retaining clip back in. And so that part is done. While you're here, you can take everything apart and wipe it down. I'll usually wipe everything down just like this. Then you loosen off this bolt. This shaft slides out and you wipe all that down just to make sure that everything is all clean before you put it back together. So everything's getting all back reassembled. I've replaced my drain screw and I'm gonna put this bottom retainer bolt in, but first I like to use a little bit of Loctite on this. That just screws right back in there. Alright, so now I'm taking off the cap so we can fill it up with oil. A lot of times some guys get nervous about, you know, there's going to be all kinds of shits jumping up out of you. But we release the pressure here, so it's not under any pressure, so you're not going to get anything springing out or nothing. Just a little bit more. Whoa! Well, there's your problem. Snakes in your forks. Alright, but seriously. Now we're going to fill it up. What I have here is my fork oil, recommended 10 weight for this bike, and I need 13 ounces for it. You really want to try and get as exact as possible. So I've got about 17 ounces left in here. I'm just going to really slowly pour it all down in here. There are methods of getting it more exact. You really should try and just be as exact as possible to get the right pressure. We're getting there. A little bit more. Perfect. Alright, then everything gets reassembled. It's hard to get everything torqued down without the forks being on the bike. You can grasp your forks in a vise like this if you pat it, but you really don't want to crank it down because you might damage them. So I just get everything pretty snug, and then I put on the bike, and once everything's all tightened up on the bike, then I will torque everything down to torque settings. Alright, so we're back on the bike and everything is torqued. One final step is to pressurize it. Now my manual says that I need no more than 17 psi for these forks, and I really do like forks that are a little bit stiffer, so I try and make mine pretty much at the maximum. There really isn't very much volume in these forks for the air, and the only place where it can expand if there's too much volume is at the fork seal. So if you overpressurize it, you will blow your fork seals. That's why a lot of guys, they use like hand pumps or bicycle pumps to fill up their forks. I don't happen to have one on hand, or else I would be using it, so I'm going to just use my air compressor. Before everyone freaks out or nothing, you can use your air compressor. It's not a big deal, but you reduce the pressure in your air compressor down to 17 psi. That way you can hold the button in as long as you want. It's not going to overpressurize it. So I just go psh, 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 until it's down to 17 psi, fill them both up. That's all there is to that. We can double check it. Looks pretty good to me. So on goes the cap. And then you got your little dust cover here. Pop that back on. Good to go. Back down to earth. Good fork seals, pressurized. Now we're ready to ride.